Alright, it's Thursday morning. The start of week 4 of the NFL is coming out right this morning, or this afternoon, with the Lions and the Packers. We got a fun slate of football, and do you know what that means? Today I'm going to be predicting week 4 of the NFL. But before I do that, please make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell. Always comment down below what is your predictions for the NFL week 4. What is your opinions on the season so far? Is your team doing any good? Is your team the Broncos, who lost by 50 points and allowed 70? That was crazy. I know a lot of people who are not happy about that, but I want to know what yours is down below, what your predictions for this week is, all that and more. And with that said, we're not going to waste any time, and we're going to go ahead and get started with the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. Now, this one is a very fun match because the Lions are a team that has really been surprising this year. They beat the Chiefs. I don't even remember who they played last week. Was it? Hold on, I'm looking right now. They beat the Falcons, and now they're playing the Packers. And so they lost against the Seahawks in overtime. This is a solid team that's looked really solid all year so far for me. But the Packers are a solid team that I think has really been showing that they are good. Jordan Love is on fire. He's having a great season. The rest of this team is pretty good. The wide receiver is good. The defense could use some work, but they always come back in the fourth. They always are down, and then for the past 2 weeks, they've been coming back and coming back. And so that's just very good, and I do not think that the Lions are the team that is going to beat the Packers this week. They're 2-1. They lost against, I believe, the Falcons. And so, I mean, Packers, I feel like they have a little bit of an edge. They're a division rival. They've been through this matchup many times before. I think even Jordan Love played a matchup with them before. And so they know them, and I just don't have a feeling that the Lions are going to be the team to defeat the Packers this week. So I'm going Packers win this one. Falcons and Jaguars. This is going to be in London. Jaguars own London, which is really not going to bias my decision because I'm real interested in this one. The Jaguars are absolutely great in London. Even though they have not been doing good these last couple weeks, they lost last week against, who was it they lost against? The Texans. They lost in week 2 against the Chiefs, but they won in week 1. And so they're just not a team that's really been impressing me so far this season. I really been betting on them a lot, and they just haven't really come through for me. And so I don't feel like Trevor Lawrence is all that great. Their offense has really fallen off. Their defense isn't doing all that great. Falcons, however, are a team that I think are doing fantastic. The Lions did hold them to only 3 points last week, which is disappointing, but the Falcons are a surprise team that are just rising up out of the dirt so far this season. That Bijan Robinson is great. Desmond Ridder, I think, is pretty good. It's just a pretty good team. Everybody has bad weeks, you know. This is a team that I feel like I'm going to have a pretty great week in London against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so I'm going Falcons win this one, even though I feel like I definitely should consider that Jags roll London. It's basically a home field advantage. But I'm still going with the Atlanta Falcons to be 3-1, which is crazy because I walked into the season saying, yeah, the Falcons, they got a bunch of rookies, but they're not going to be anything. And they're 2-1, and they're really exciting to watch this season, which I think is really cool. They're a team that I'm watching a lot of, and so I definitely do think they're good. They're going to beat Jacksonville. Ooh, what a good match. The Dolphins and the Bills. The Dolphins and the Bills. This is going to be a good match. 3-0 Dolphins scored 70 off Broncos last week. They got the top scoring offense. They beat the Patriots by a lot. The Chargers in a blowout. And so I feel like the Dolphins playing the Bills this week, I feel like the Dolphins are going to win this one. The Bills had a disappointing week 1. They lost against the Jets. But then week 2 was a blowout against Las Vegas. Week 3 was a blowout against Washington. But if you think of it, they're both solid enough teams, but they're both teams with young players, while this team is experienced. While the Dolphins are a team with experience that I feel like are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. As of right now, my predictions for the Super Bowl are the Niners and the Dolphins. And I feel like the Dolphins are going to win. I feel like the Dolphins will win the Super Bowl this year. And so they are a Super Bowl contender. I would not be surprised if they go undefeated. And while the Bills, even though they blew out the last couple of games, I still feel like they're not they're not the Bills this year. I mean, the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Bills, I'm still very nervous out of all of them, even after last week. And having this tough matchup against the Dolphins, I just don't see Josh Allen and the Bills winning it. I mean, sure, they've blown out against teams that, with Washington having a young squad and, what is it? Who did they play second? Oh, Las Vegas having a bunch of, okay players. They blew them out. I just don't feel like they're going to be that great against the Dolphins, and so I definitely think that the Dolphins are going to win. The Minnesota Vikings and the Carolina Panthers. And this one's sad, because the Vikings are 0-3, and they should not be 0-3. They are a good team. They are a very good team. Defense is miserable, and their offense, they fumble the ball quite a bit. 3 games, they've already have 7 fumbles. That's a league leader by a lot. And while they're not being the greatest, they're not the greatest team this year, I still feel like they're pretty good fantasy points-wise. You got Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, who are absolutely wonders of matchup. Kirk Cousins gets 30 points per game on Sleeper app, and Justin Jefferson gets 25 per game. That is a great matchup. They just cannot win a game, and I don't know why. It's because they keep fumbling the ball, and it's because their defense is not that great. Playing the Carolina Panthers, I think they get their first win, though. I still do not see Bryce Young as a great quarterback. He didn't even play last week. They played Dalton, and they actually did good with Dalton. And so, even with Andy Dalton, I still don't see them beating the Vikings. Even though, I mean, it sucks because I have a feeling they will, but I'm still going to go over the Vikings. I have false hope. I think that the Vikings are going to win and finally get their first win of the season. Starting off 0-3, man, that is rough. Coming to this matchup, they bring their A game and they get their first win of the season. No more fumbles. Defense steps up, but I can't shake the feeling that the Panthers are going to win. But I'm going Vikings. I'm going to predict Vikings because I'm not stupid. I'm not going to bet on the Panthers. I don't even know who's playing, if Bryce Young is playing or if Andy Dalton's playing. So if it's Bryce Young, it's a loss. If it's Andy Dalton, they got a shot. But I mean, the Broncos and the Bears. The Broncos and the Bears. 2 0-3 matchups in a row. This one is crazy because the Broncos allowed 70 points last week. The Broncos allowed 70 points last week to the Dolphins. It's the Dolphins, the best team in the league, but they still allowed 70 points. Their offense is looking okay. I like Russell Wilson this year. I think he's not doing the worst. I like a bunch of their wide receivers. They're doing okay. Their defense is absolutely abysmal. They are not allowing them. The defense lost week 2, the defense lost week 1, and the defense lost week 3. Because if this defense is not holding up, they're the top scoring defense in the league. They're allowing all these scores, and it's just abysmal to watch. But the Bears, they're not much better. They also got blowed out last week by the Kansas City Chiefs, which is crazy because I had Patrick Mahomes and he got me a lot of fantasy points, even though I still lost. Anyhow, the Broncos and the Bears, I feel like the Bears have a solid enough offense. I feel like they could beat the Broncos, but the Broncos also have a solid enough offense. But I'm going to really rely this on the defense. I'm going the Bears winning because I do not trust this Broncos defense. I feel like even the Bears could score 40-50 on them because at this point, their defense needs a lot of work. Sean Payton is doing the best with the offense that he can. The offense is not the worst. So I feel like this game could be a good game, be a shootout. It's just the fact that both teams suck, and that's why it will be a shootout. Let's go Ravens and Browns on this one. The Browns are a very surprised team because they're actually doing pretty great this year so far. Deshaun Watson not really impressing me, but their overall team is doing really good. Jerome Ford is a big surprise after Nick Chubb left. He's doing a pretty good job. You got a couple other young players. Amari Cooper's doing great. The defense is doing great. Ravens, they beat the Bengals. The Ravens also won in week 1, but they lost last week against the Indianapolis Colts in a big upset, and so that's crazy, which is why this game is going to be very hard to pick, because I feel like my gut should go Ravens, so I am going to pick Ravens to win this one, but I would not be really surprised if the Browns do win. I do not like Deshaun Watson. I feel like he definitely is not the greatest quarterback. He's not very good. But the Ravens have a great quarterback. They have a pretty good offense, a pretty good defense, and one upset is nothing. But the Browns, I think, also have a really talented team with Jerome Ford and Amari Cooper and Myles Garrett and all those other guys on the squad. It's just they have a big quarterback problem, and I feel like the Ravens are going to really take advantage of that one. So I'm predicting that the Ravens win this one. The somehow 2-1 Steelers versus the 1-2 Texans. Every Steelers game this year is nasty to watch. I mean, the Steelers got destroyed by the Niners, and then they won against, who was it they won against? Oh yeah, we were just talking about them, the Browns. And so they also won last week against the Raiders. But the Texans really pulled off an upset against the Ravens last week, which I was really surprised to see because I do not feel like the Texans are any good. They had a pretty good game last week. Does that mean I think they're going to beat Pittsburgh? I feel like Pittsburgh is slowly becoming a good team. Kenny Pickett's not the best. He's not that good this year. But they keep getting wins miraculously. And their offense and defense, especially the defense, keeps providing through and through each game. And so if their defense can keep doing that, I really do feel like we could have a shutout against C.J. Young and the Texans. And I'm sorry, not C.J. Young, C.J. Stroud. What am I talking about? And I'm sorry, I know you guys. Oh, but they beat the Ravens. It's one game, and I do not feel like they could beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would be happy if they do. Unlike a lot of people think, I am rooting for these rookies this year. I just don't feel like they'll be... I just don't feel like them. I just don't feel like they're all that people are talking about this year so far. The Rams and the Colts. Oh man, I really got told to shut up last week. Last 2 weeks, the Rams have not looked good. They looked good against the Niners. They still lost. Last week, they did not look good whatsoever. I do not think that they look good at all. Their offense was miserable. Matthew Stafford, I think, threw a bunch of picks, and they punted the ball away a lot. Well, the Colts are looking like a solid team. It depends if Anthony Richardson's back. I feel like Anthony Richardson is Rookie of the Year. Gardner Minshew did not do bad. Wait, did they beat the Ravens or did the Texans beat the Ravens? Hold on, I'm looking right now. I'm a bit confused on that. I forgot who played the Ravens last week. The Colts who beat the Ravens. Who did the Texans upset? The Texans upset the Jags. That's my bad. I got that a little bit confused. And so the Rams are playing the Colts, and the Colts upset the Ravens last week. They're a pretty good team. While the Rams are, they just haven't looked good last week. Their offense looked real miserable. And like I said, if Richardson's playing, it's a win for the Colts. If Minshew's playing, I think it could also be a slight win for the Colts. It all depends on who the quarterback is. I don't know how long. I don't know how long that Anthony Richardson will be out. Actually, he's questionable right now. It says he's questionable right now. And so if Anthony Richardson's playing, I'm going Colts. But the Rams could have a chance. But I think I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to say Colts win this one. Because just the Rams' offense has been looking rough. And I want the Rams to do good this year. But they're kind of proving me wrong. The Bucs and the Saints. The Buccaneers only looked good last week in the fourth quarter. Their defense was okay, but their offense was not. And then the New Orleans Saints, they were a team that did pretty good last week. They could have beaten the Green Bay Packers, except if not for an 18-point unanswered comeback in the fourth quarter. Anyways, the Saints are 2-1. I don't know how that happened. I said that they weren't the powerhouse of a team, but they did look good last week. I feel like they did solid last week against the Green Bay Packers. Well, the Bucs, they had one bad week last week. They did only good in the fourth quarter, and they did really good in the fourth quarter, and that's why I'm predicting the Buccaneers to win. I feel like the Saints are this team that is okay good. You know, it's not like good, but they're okay good. They're 2-1, but they're okay. You know what I'm saying? Well, the Buccaneers, I feel like they're really great. They just had a tough matchup last week against the best defense and one of the best offenses. So I'm definitely going Buccaneers to win this one. Though, unfortunately, I wouldn't be mad if the Saints actually won. I feel like it's good for Derek Carr to finally start having a winning season. The Commanders and the Eagles. And this is sad because the Commanders lost by a lot to a really great Buffalo Bills team. Now they're playing the Eagles. I feel like this one could be a shootout. I genuinely feel like the Eagles aren't going to 100% shut out the Commanders. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Does that mean I'm going to bet against the Eagles? No, absolutely not. They got the best defense. Jalen Hurts is having a monster season. A.J. Brown is doing fine. Devontae Smith is doing fine. Everybody else is doing fine. While the Commanders, they're having a good season. I feel like they're slowly cruising along. They're just having a real good drive while the Eagles have their foot to the metal and they're in a foot race. And that's just how I feel like about this week. I feel like the Commanders, they're a good team. They'll fight their best against the Eagles, but the Eagles will come off with a win in week 4 because just the Eagles are so good this year and last year. The 1-2 Bengals versus the 1-2 Tennessee Titans. And this one sucks because the Bengals really again proved last week that they're not a good football team this year. They cannot throw the ball. Joe Burrow is scared to throw the ball. Jamar Chase finally had a good week last week, but they only got 1 touchdown last week. It was all field goals. The Tennessee Titans are not good either. They keep getting, like, big blowout wins or big blowout losses. I just do not feel like the Titans are any good. And this is why this is a matchup that I'm just not excited for. I don't know who to predict because the Bengals are not looking good. So I think I'm going Titans win this game, even though I genuinely do not want the Titans to win this game. You guys know how I feel about my abysmal Titans. I hate the Titans. I hate them more than anything in football. And so, but I just don't feel the Bengals winning this matchup. I do not feel it, and that's really sad, honestly. The Las Vegas Raiders and the Chargers. And so this is going to be a very fun matchup because the Raiders are a team that they definitely have some QB problems. They definitely have some problems, but they also have a great offense. Josh Jacobs is not blowing off this year, but they also have Devontae Adams, who's having a massive year, and they could have beat the Steelers. But they also got a lot of coaching problems. Kicking a field goal and not even trying the onside kick. It's like the coach just gave up on that match. And the Chargers might be 1-2, but I feel like they're still a really good team. They always have great games. They just couldn't catch a break. So I'm going Chargers win this one. Keenan Allen's a monster. Justin Herbert's a monster. They're having a great season so far. The unfortunate thing about this is that they are a team that have some really tough matchups, and I think they're going to get a big break with the Raiders. So unfortunately for the Raiders, I'm going Chargers win this one. New England in Dallas. Now, Dallas got upset last week against the Cardinals, which was the second biggest shocker of the week. The first one being that the Dolphins beat the Broncos by 70. But the Patriots they could barely beat the Jets. They couldn't beat the Dolphins, and they couldn't win week 1 against the Eagles. I just don't like this offense. Their defense is solid enough, but their offense is just, they're barely doing anything all season. They're only doing minor things, and I feel like their offense really needs to step up if they're going to beat this Cowboys team. Just because of one upset, do I feel like the defense is going to let up on the Cowboys? No, I do not. Even though they're without Trevon Diggs for the rest of the season, even though he's my favorite NFL player, without him for the rest of the season, I just don't feel like the Cowboys are going to lose this one. I would be happy to be upset. I do not like the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are a powerhouse team, and even though they lose 1 week, I feel like even the Cardinals' offense better than New England's. So I'm going Dallas. Arizona and San Francisco. I've said it before, San Francisco is going to make it to the Super Bowl. They look great. Even though they had not a perfect week against New York last week, they still look great, and they're playing the Cardinals, who really did upset the Cowboys. Do I feel like the Cardinals could pull off 2 upsets in a row? I do not. The 49ers, Brock Purdy's doing great. Deebo Samuel continued to do great last week. McCaffrey is on fire this year. And so I feel like this 49er squad is the best NFC team, and they're doing absolute wonders on this league so far. And so the Cardinals, while they did beat the Cowboys, they still don't feel like they're all that great of a team. I really don't feel like they're that great. Maybe if they win, and I will be rooting for the Cardinals in this matchup. If they win, I feel like they can be fighting for it. But Joshua Dobbs is a good quarterback, but I just still don't see them beating the 49ers. And it sucks to bet against the Cardinals because I do kind of want the Cardinals to win, especially after last week. But I'm going 49ers win this one. 2 more matchups. We got a Sunday night matchup, and we got a Monday night matchup. The Sunday night matchup, Kansas City, baby, versus the New York Jets. This one's going to be awesome because the Chiefs are not playing good teams. They destroyed the Bears. They absolutely did not kill the Jaguars, but they beat the Jaguars. They lost against the Lions, but now they're playing the Jets. And I have no reason to think that they're not going to annihilate the Jets. I feel like the offense is at their prime now. Travis Kelce's having a great time because he's now dating Taylor Swift. Who cares? Like, seriously. But, actually, I care, but whatever. Patrick Mahomes having a great season. While the New York Jets, their offense just cannot seem to catch a break. They only scored 10 points in the last 2 games. They did beat the Bills in a big upset that one week. But I just don't feel like the Jets are all this good of a team. While Mahomes and his team is at the top of the league. I feel like they're going to win. And they're not only just going to win, but they're going to win by a lot. And so I'm going Chiefs in this matchup. And our final matchup, the Seattle Seahawks versus the New York Giants. The Giants, their offense has just really been struggling. They tried last week against the Niners. I can tell they tried. They beat the Cardinals in a big comeback. But the Seahawks this year, even after a rough week 1, they're having a good season. They lost week 1 against the Rams. But week 2 was a good game. Week 3 was a great game. Kenneth Walker's on fire. Geno Smith is doing okay. DK, Tyler Lockett, they're all doing great. I feel like the Seattle Seahawks are a team to be reckoned with. And so, for that reason, I'm going Seattle over this one. I feel like it's not going to be a necessarily blowout, but I definitely feel like it's going to be a big win for the Seahawks because the Giants are just... As much as I'd like to say, the Giants are just not really proving. Their offense is really having a bunch of troubles. Their defense is doing the best they can. I don't see them beating Seattle. And that is my predictions for Week 4 of the NFL. Make sure you tell me yours down below. I got a bunch more videos coming up on my main channel, Zachary Movie Chat. I finished Breaking Bad, so I'm going to do that. I finished a whole bunch of other shows and movies, and I saw a bunch of movies. I went to the theaters a couple times, and now I'm going to go see The Creator and Saw X. Very excited for those. So I got a bunch more videos coming up. With that said, subscribe to join the Nerd Army.